Ann B. Walker started working here at Channel 4 in the late 60s, decades before working in Jimmy Carter's White House. Walker was the first woman in broadcast management in Columbus and first female and African-American journalist to cover Columbus City Hall. NBC4 anchor Carrie Charles spoke with the local legend, who was also the first woman broadcaster to cover the Ohio legislature.
So what's going on here?
A news conference.
Okay.
You see Jimmy sitting right here. Where's Ann Walker sitting?
Right next to him.
Right next to Jimmy.
Ann B. Walker is a Columbus media icon, former columnist, journalist, radio host.
And he said, come up here. And so this man was getting ready to sit here. But when the president says to somebody, come up here, he can't sit there.
Walker tells me her first encounter with Jimmy Carter was while covering a meeting for the Poor People's Campaign. The job, a special assignment for Columbus's WVKO radio.
This was in Little Rock, Arkansas. Humphrey was running for the presidency. Jimmy Carter was. And Jimmy talked about the things that he would do if he were elected. And the things that he did weren't political.
Walker tells me her question about a political coup in Ghana stood out from others asked by fellow reporters.
When it was over, he said, you evidently do your homework.
2 years later, in 1976, presidential candidate Carter came to Channel 4. Walker worked at the station, producing and hosting TV specials, running an internship program. When an Associated Press reporter backed out of the Carter interview, Walker says news director and anchor Hugh DeMoss, who also interviewed the presidential candidate, called on her. Walker says DeMoss focused on the other candidates.
But Ann Walker would say, well, when you were in Little Rock, you said thus and so, that if you were elected, you would do this, you would do that. Would you still, once you are elected, would you still have that kind of program to help people?
Carter won the White House. In 1980, his team called Walker's Columbus home. Her husband had taken a message.
They wanted a person to do the PR for the Poor People's Campaign, Poor People's Organization.
She became a special assistant director to the director of the White House Public Affairs Office. It's how she ended up at the table.
People often say he was a good person.
Yeah, he was, you know, he genuinely was. And so when you look at the presidents, there aren't that many you can say that about. I just knew he was a good guy. And it was just unfortunate that he could only serve one term.
That was Carrie Charles reporting. In September of 1978, President Carter came to Columbus to attend the dedication of the Mount Vernon Plaza.